Hi guys, how's everyone doing? Saturday morning, it can only mean one thing. It is story time. Once again, I've got 3 viewers' stories lined up for you this morning. 3 stories sent in by viewers to me to read out for you. Right, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the upload today will be slightly shorter. Generally, they're about 30 to 40 minutes long. Today, I think it's going to be around 20 minutes. I'm getting less stories in now. There's more and more people visiting Thailand, so they're not sitting around writing stories. As always, if you have got a story, please send it in. To those guys who have sent stories recently, thank you very much. They're very well appreciated. So let me not waste any of your time. Let's get straight into it. And the first of 3 stories.
สวัสดีค่ะ
This was my first trip to Bangkok from the US. The year was 2013. I was 56 and had just begun to travel the world and only my second trip to Asia. It was officially a business trip, so expenses like hotel and food, I had to budget about $100 a day. I had read some things online, but nothing online began to prepare you for Bangkok. I was booked into a hotel with a deluxe suite near Nana Plaza on Soi 4. It was where the company booked me into. After finishing a short first day at work, I was free from about 5 p.m. onwards. Quick shower, as the heat of Bangkok, it's not unusual to take 2 or 3 showers a day. I looked at my phone map and set out for Nana Plaza. I never even made it to the entrance into Nana Plaza before stopping at one of the beer bars before you reach the entrance. So many beautiful girls. I'd never seen so many beautiful girls in one block in my life. I was very awkward, so I sat down in Stumble Inn bar at the railing looking out onto the street to watch the world go by. I ordered a beer and sat there, almost too afraid to begin any conversation. A Thai beauty spoke to me to tell me to move. I thought I must have sat where she had friends sitting, but she reassured me, no, I simply sat in a seat where the rainwater would have dripped down on me. She patted the seat closer to her, but still 1 apart. So I moved and a few words were exchanged. She asked me from the script that I now know so well, but it was all new to me back then. Where are you from? US, Florida. Your first trip to Bangkok? I answered stupidly, yes. Here on holiday? No business. All the wrong answers. I did admit I was nervous and naive my first time here. She asked me my name. I'm Alan, I said, and I asked her name. I'm Tuk. Nice to meet you. I am guessing she was in her early 30s, but of course she looked younger. I offered to buy her a lady's drink. I look at the bill cup, the bar tab, and see that she collects her lady's drink slip from one of the staff. I know this level of detail may be killing some of your audience, but I'm fascinated by how the whole system works. Moving forward, I get up the courage and ask her if she'd like to go back with me to my hotel room not far from here. She says yes, but she is very expensive. She is charging 4,000 baht for her company. In a cunning move, she laughs a laugh that to this day is so special to me. I call it the Tuk laugh. I think she did this to test the waters. I offer her 3,000 baht and she accepts it. I paid the 600 baht bar fine and was surprised how it all works. The bar fine actually goes straight on your bar bill. I don't even remember if it was long time or short time. I am sure she must have mentioned it, but I was just so beside myself with anticipation, I completely missed it. I stop at a nearby 7-Eleven. I offered to buy her something. She asked for a Bacardi Breezer, then off we went to my room. I had a glass of bubbly chillin. I offered Tuk a glass. She said she normally only drinks red wine, but she would try it. Why I thought I had to get Tuk drunk, I don't know. She really liked the bubbly. After a couple of glasses, we killed the bottle. Even with a short tuk-tuk ride, she suggests we take a shower as it is hot even for November. She goes first. When she finishes, I go next. I don't know why I never thought to shower together with her. Remember, this was my first night in Bangkok and I have been in a bad marriage with no aerobics for the last 10 years. Yes, no aerobics in 10 years. The aerobics were great, but even more great was the girlfriend experience. I had never had this kind of girlfriend experience since I was a teenager. I was like a 56-year-old teenager. I slept like a baby at this point with Tuk curled in my arms, head on my chest. The next morning, she departed. I gave her some extra cab fare over the 3,000 baht, which of course she was delighted to receive. I asked if she would be in the bar tonight. She said yes. I was not sure what my work schedule would be, so I made no promises, but would like to see her again if it worked out. I did my work for the day with my mind never away from Tuk in anticipation of finding her again tonight. So I went to the bar and we shared a few drinks. This time we played some pool. My work was done for this trip, but I had 2 more days in Bangkok and was totally free from any more work obligations from this point on. I asked if she would stay with me for the next 2 days and I'd pay her bar fine and her rate for the company. I wanted to take her to dinner and I also took her clothes shopping. She bought 3 outfits, nothing very expensive but cute and not overly sexy. We went back to the room and she modelled all the outfits with me playing photographer. I still have all those photos and fond memories of that night. The next morning we woke, showered and then had some late breakfast. That afternoon she showed me around some malls and we wound up in a movie theatre. The movie was a chick flick, love story in Thai. I remember to this day because boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy finds girl again, happily ever after. The entire movie was in Thai with no subtitles, but I had no problem following the storyline. I'd never seen a theatre like this. We sat in the back and we had a luxurious love seat where Tuk cuddled in my arms. I returned home to the US in Florida and text Tuk every day. I'm still thinking in girlfriend-boyfriend mode. We also had some video chats sprinkled in. She would send me selfies, wear the outfits I had brought her. After about a month, her text messages became less responsive and longer between texts. Then around Chinese New Year, they totally stopped. I did not push too hard. I was thousands of miles away without knowing when I would return, but I did know I would return to Bangkok one day in the future. In fact, I did return the following Christmas, making it about 13 months since I had last seen Tuk. I returned to the Stumble Inn. I didn't see Tuk, and when I asked, I was told she was living with her English boyfriend in Bangkok. Now it made sense why her texts had tapered off. As I said, this was my first trip to Bangkok. Now, a decade later, I have become much more experienced, having been to Bangkok close to a dozen times, both as a single guy and more recently as a remarried man to a beautiful Filipino girl. Another series of stories, but back to this story. On my 3rd trip, I again went to the Stumble Inn and there was Tuk. I had since moved on with other girls, and although she wanted me to take her out, I just made an excuse and we drank and played some pool. Several hours in the bar just having fun. I repeated these visits, finding Tuk to visit and replay my first time ever in Bangkok. On my last trip, I sneaked off from my wife just to say hello to Tuk. She greeted me and then said, "Where is my bubbly?" You see, on every visit I brought her a bottle of bubbly, the same as we had shared on that first memorable evening. Okay, so that's a kind of typical story. I know exactly what went on there. So, you know, these girls who work in, freelancers basically, but they work in places like Stumble Inn where he went into his first night. So he's taken her the first night. Let me rewind a little bit. A lot of guys who go into bars and they have a drink with a freelancer or the girl who works in the bar, although she's working for that bar, she is actually a freelancer. I won't get into details, but that's kind of how it works. So I totally understand what's happened here. So normally what happens, a guy will go into one of these bars, he'll have a drink with a lady, a girl, he'll bar fine her, take her out for a few hours, and that's the end of the story. But of course, this guy, being his first time, he enjoyed his first night with this lady Tuk, and he decided to take her out for two nights. You know, they had meals together, they went shopping, he bought her a few outfits. So for her, she's looking at the future. You know, they're trying to gather as many sponsors as they can. They might hit the jackpot and meet that one guy who falls in love and wants to take her back to their country or marry them and stay in Thailand. So she probably put a bit more effort into it. She thought, well, here's this guy. He's never been here before. He's probably not been with any girls, if any, before me. And now I have a chance to hook this guy properly, you know. And of course, once he was away for any length of time, what would have happened is she would have started to get bored because, of course, in the meantime, she's meeting lots of other guys and she's doing the same thing. You know, she kept him on the hook for a while, hoping that he'd come back sooner than he did. And of course, when he came back eventually after 13 months, she just seen him as a one-night experience, you know, a chance to make some money. So that's quite a common thing that happens here. And from his side, you know, typical first night in Thailand, falls in love with a bar girl, and he's never going to forget her. It doesn't matter how many girls he has relationships with in the future. That first one on that first night here in Bangkok is the one that you remember. All right. Right. Okay. Into story number 2. Hi, Peter. I enjoy your stories and I feel compelled to share one of mine. My story begins in a country close to Thailand, but I choose not to disclose it. I was only 19 years young, and I'll say it, even though I'm embarrassed, I was also very inexperienced in the aerobics department. I was brought up in a strict household, but for the first time at the age of 19, I was free. I joined the military. The small village I was stationed in had many bars, and I forgot to mention this was in 1987. Yes, it was very humid, but I totally fell in love with the food, the culture and the people, and not to mention the beautiful women. Being so naive and never a drinker, I completely drowned myself in beer, and in the excitement of girls asking me to buy ladies' drinks, it was a good time to be 19. Most of my money back then I was spending at the bars. No one would believe this, but it's the truth. Short time was $10, long time was $20, overnight was $40 if you wanted female company. The village I was located in was known to have a high amount of STDs, but I was 19 and that was not going to stop me. How foolish of me. For the first time in my life, I could go into any bar and all the girls wanted my attention. It was a feeling I can never forget. The first time I spent time with a bar girl, it is embarrassing to admit, I couldn't do anything. I was so scared, I was so shy, I just could not do anything. It took some time for me to slowly become confident enough to perform the aerobics. Once I became knowledgeable, I was unstoppable. I waited for every weekend to come around to go to the bars and drink and scope out and find a new girl that I could stay with and have fun. Needless to say, I fell in love, or so I thought it was love. One of the girls, who was called Kim, told me she hated working at the bar, but that she owed the manager money so she could not leave the bar until her debt was paid back. I had feelings for her, deep emotional feelings of love, and I hated knowing that she had to go with random guys to perform aerobics. When I stayed with her, when I had the money, we would talk, eat, watch movies on her TV, and I believed we were a couple, boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't forget, I was only 19 and never had a girlfriend before in my life. We came up with a plan that would take her out of the bar without anyone knowing. One day in the afternoon, she was allowed to go shopping close to the bar for girl items. I waited for her in a taxi and she got in and we left to the capital city away from the village. We were both very excited and nervous, and she was crying, but we were happy at the same time. I only wanted to take her home to her family. She took me to her sister's home, but I did not understand the language. Her sister did not allow her to stay in the house. Kim became very depressed and sad, especially because the bar manager had kept her ID. Without an ID card, she could not find a different job. She told me she needed $1,000 to purchase a new ID card. That was a lot of money, and I had to borrow some of the money, but I was completely blindly in love with this girl. Many of your listeners will think I was playing the white knight. Maybe I was at the time. I was 19, remember, and totally in love and in complete bliss. For 3 days, we stayed in the capital city. We walked around, went to restaurants, shopping, all the usual stuff. Needless to say, we were happy. On the 3rd day, she told me the most horrific, unexpected words that I cannot forget even now. She told me she must go back to the bar. I told her no, that would never happen. She grabbed a knife and put it to her throat. She said she would harm herself if I do not allow her to go back to the village and back to the bar. We were at a train station and she was crying and I was so confused, but she seemed to be serious. I couldn't stop her from getting on the train. I was in shock, complete shock. Here is the girl I love, but she is choosing to go back to the bar. At that moment, I realized that I am in the middle of this huge city. I don't know where to go, what to do, or even how to catch a train or the subway. And I ended up sleeping in the street because I had no money to get a hotel. The next morning, someone woke me up on the sidewalk and asked me if I was okay. They were concerned for me. I asked if they could help me buy a train ticket to go back to my village where I was located, and they gave me money to buy a ticket. This is in 1987, no mobile phones and not much communication. Needless to say, I could never go back to the bar because a manager would definitely know it was me who took her out of the bar. It has been many years, almost 40 years, and my heart still has pain, and I don't think I can ever erase the pain. I was in love for the first time. It was a dream for me, but it took many, many years to realise that these bar girls all have issues and problems. I cannot blame her, and I never will. I only hope if somebody listens to this story, they will realise don't ever fall in love with a bar girl. Love your content, Peter. Keep it up. Well, you know, you can't point a finger at him, can you? You can't blame him. The guy was 19. You know, can you remember when you were 19? I certainly can, and I wasn't. I wasn't switched on at all. Look, guys come out here and they're like 40, 50, 60 years of age, and they fall for these scams with these girls now, even with all their experience. You know, so you can imagine a guy who's he's had a strict upbringing. He's never had a girlfriend, really, not a proper girlfriend. He's joined the military to see the world. He's gone to some hotspot with bars and girls, and you know, it's overwhelming, isn't it? And he's taken to one of these girls. She's probably, you know, spun her story, and he's fallen in love with her. And he's done what any young man in love would do. He's whisked her off romantically, and we don't know what's gone on with the girl. We don't know. There could be many scenarios. There was no mobile phone, so my first thoughts were maybe some of her friends at the bar called her and said, look, come back to the bar. The manager said they won't do anything to you. That was my first thoughts, but no mobile phones. But, you know, they had pay phones, so maybe that was what happened. Maybe she was under pressure from something else. Maybe once she got the $1,000 and she realised that he had to borrow money to get the $1,000, maybe she thought, well, there's no point staying with this guy. He's got no cash left. Now, I'm only guessing. It might be none of that. She might have genuinely loved him, and we'll never know why she went back to the bar. But I certainly won't point the dirty end of the stick at the guy. 19, as I say, you know, you can get away with most things, I think, at that age. Right, okay, let's get into our third and final story. Now, I'm glad I got this story, and I'd encourage any couples out there, if you've got a story, to send it in, because this is actually a story from a female and a male. They're American, Asian Americans. They'll tell you this in the story, but they came out to Thailand and they experienced something a little bit different. It's quite a short story, but I think it's quite a nice story. I hope you enjoy it. My name is Emma, and I've been meaning to write to you sooner. My husband and I found your channel during the pandemic as we yearned for Thailand stories, updates and news. Since having found it, we really enjoyed the stories your viewers shared about their good and bad experiences within Thailand or Southeast Asia. We think the stories provide good pointers for anyone of any age, male or female, etc. Before I go further, here is a little story about us. We are an attractive Asian American couple in our late 30s, married for about a decade or so now, and have a stable line of work. We have been visiting Thailand since 2015, at least once a year. We enjoy the culture, nightlife, food and exploring. We have visited Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, Pattaya, Phuket and our favourite, Koh Samui. We plan to explore other areas such as Hua Hin, Udong and other islands in the future. In our early years visiting Thailand, we were the typical American tourists. We were young and naive. We came to check out all the tourist attractions and fun. As the years passed and several trips to and from Thailand, we grew more comfortable with the country as well as our relationship. We started exploring the adult entertainment districts for fun. We've been to Simla in the US, but Thailand's go-go bars are very different to the clubs in the US. In the go-go bars, the ladies flirted with us, and we returned the flirting. Of course, we were not naive about their forthcoming. We learned it was their means of living, and they earn a commission on the ladies' drinks. After a few experiences, we soon realised how easy it could be for anyone to enjoy their time if they wanted. We started having a discussion about including a third wheel to join our aerobic sessions, and this is our story. It occurred on Phuket Island during the late summer of 2019. We did not know it at the time, but that would be the last time in the land of smiles for at least a few years. After a full day of excursions, we came back to the hotel, showered, and were ready to go back out to Bangla Road. It was a busy spot that evening, and we hopped around a few bars. After some drinks and dinner, we called it a night and headed back to the hotel. Once back at the hotel, we realised the night was still young. So we jumped on a dating site to see if anyone would be interested in a little pool party and aerobic session. Believe it or not, it's not that easy to find somebody open to partake in a third wheel aerobic session, for lack of a better word. After a few messages back and forth, we found a lady open to our invitation. She arrived in about half an hour. She was stunning and looked just like her pictures. She was in her late 20s, about 5'2", light skin and long, thick black hair. She was curvy, not too slim, just right. There was a slight language barrier, but we all managed. However, she was most concerned with me and wanted to ensure I was completely okay with her being there and the aerobics activity to be had with my husband. I assured her I was happy she was joining us, and I gave her a beer, then showed her to the pool. That lit up her mood, and I think she felt relief. As we were heading to the pool, she mentioned she didn't bring a swimsuit. We told her she could wear my husband's white tank top. She happily slid into it and had only that on. We continued some little small talk, then we all got into the pool, which was a perfect way to cool down as it was a humid evening. In the pool, I spaced myself between her and my husband. I was nervous and shy. She was the opposite. She swam up to me and got very close. I was still nervous, but was also excited about her approach. She reached out and gently kissed me. By this time, my husband was next to us. We enjoyed the caress of one another and continued the rest inside. After our aerobics party, we took a group shower. I was the first one to clean up in the shower and got out. To my surprise, she stayed back with my husband and they continued for another 10 minutes or so. Once they came back to the room, she was still very friendly and very flirty. She also did not rush to leave. We had one last drink and continued some small talk, then she eventually asked if it was okay for her to head out. We didn't ask for a long time, so we both thanked her for a time and said yes, of course. We also told her that tomorrow night would be our last night on the island and hoped to see her again. She agreed she will meet us again. The next evening came and we messaged her to discuss a meeting time. Her response was a little delayed, but eventually she responded. She was still polite in her response and seemed happy to meet us again. We agreed on a time and were looking forward to it. About an hour or so before she was to come back to our place, she messaged asking for several hundred more baht than what was initially agreed. I was a little turned off by this approach, but my husband was okay with it. However, having learnt a few things from Thailand Bound, I decided to decline the request and stay firm on the initial offer. She did not reply after receiving my response. At this time, it was getting late into the evening, and so we decided to stay in, finish packing and prepare for our trip to Bangkok. The next morning, we had an early morning flight to catch. Looking back now, the amount she had asked for was not much, and perhaps we could have had a great second aerobic session. But it is what it is. Personally, I do not regret declining her last minute counter offer because I think she was hoping to gain a little more from us because she knew it was our last evening. I guess that might be part of their freelance ways. Overall, our first third wheel aerobic session experience in Thailand was not bad. It was actually pretty nice. We realised it could have been worse as we've heard the many stories shared on your channel. And yes, our experience is different from most other stories because we're a married couple and most are not. We realised before getting ourselves into this, we must apply the same rules and or tips when associating with any freelancers anywhere. Okay, so that's not as unusual as it sounds. You know, a lot of the time, I've got a couple of things here. So a lot of the times, if you're out in bars, especially somewhere like Nana Plaza or Soy Cowboy, where it's all happening, you know, you'll see couples of all ages, you know, in 20s, 30s, even 40s, and you'll see them in the go-go bars, and your first thought when you look over is, oh, they've come in and they just want to look and see what it's all about. They've never seen it before, and a lot of people do that. But there's also a lot of couples who do partake in, as this lady has called it, a third wheel aerobic session. And I guess it's just one of those things when they come to Thailand, you know, they might have been married like this lady for 10 years or so, and you know, at the end of the day, they both agreed and they wanted to try something different, and they had a good experience, you know. But it's quite a common thing. You will see this happen, and if you're ever around Nana Plaza and just as a little bit of a social experience you want to see, just sit outside, you know, between say 12 and 1:30 and just watch people coming out, and you'll see couples, you know, married couples, girlfriend, boyfriend, and you'll see them coming out with a girl, a Thai girl, and this is the same as this story. So it was very well written as well. She was very diplomatic how she described it. I like the story. Okay, the only other thing I'd say is on the price, where the lady, she sort of, I think she kicked herself towards the end because this girl, quite rightly, like this lady says, the freelancer realised, okay, it's their first night, I need to try and maximise this, get as much money as I can. She took a gamble, asked for a few $100 more, and the lady declined and she missed out. Right, that's it. I've tried to pad it out a little bit because it is a little bit shorter this week, as I say. And as I always say, if you have got any stories, please do send them in. I'll make them anonymous, and then you can listen to your tale as you have heard these ones today. Okay, so another reason for making it a bit short, I've got a very, very busy day. I've got the live streams tonight, but I'm going to one of the islands tomorrow. I'm actually going to Koh Larn near Pattaya, and I'm going there for a few days. I should enjoy that. That's the one great benefit of having a car here. When I feel like getting away, I can just jump in and go. But by the time I make these stories a week in advance, so by the time you actually listen to this, I'll have been to Koh Larn, come back, and I'm working again. Okay, right, thanks for listening, guys. More stories next week, and whatever you're doing, have a great weekend.